Hi, my name is Julie Ty. I'm president of the New York League of Conservation Voters Education Fund. We're so glad you could be here today to talk to us about climate change in particular. Your district is so close to the ocean. It's something that really is a driver both of the economy and why so many people want to live here. However, being so close to the ocean also makes your community more at risk from the changes of climate. In particular with dealing with sea level rise and more severe and more frequent storms. There are many proposals to address greenhouse gas emissions at the federal level. What do you think is the role of the federal government in addressing greenhouse gas emissions, and what specific policies would you propose or support to address climate change?
Well, first off, Julie, thank you so much for coming. Harrison, thank you so much for coming today and interviewing me about this. I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island. The environment is very important to me. I learned to sail and swim in the Great South Bay. I was first elected when Superstorm Sandy happened. 2 weeks before the elections, Superstorm Sandy happened, and half of the district was underwater, and I couldn't go visit constituents. So it is climate change is very important. Protecting the South Shore of Long Island is very important. Like you said, it's big for the economy. It's also a big reason why people want to live here. People stay here, they come here during the summer from all over because it's one of the greatest places to live on Earth. So as a member of the Assembly, I served on the Environmental Conservation Committee. I was always a big, strong proponent of protecting the Great South Bay and the ocean and even the Long Island Sound when there were bills dealing with that. As a member of Congress, I'm going to continue that fight. There are a lot of things, a lot of bills that have been proposed to combat carbon emissions. There is a carbon recapture tax credit, which is something I would definitely support. I know there's also a bill or a plan that was just proposed. It's called the Trillion Trees that the House Republicans came out with. I actually find it very interesting because for some reason, being pro-environment, I think over the years people have turned it into a Democratic issue when it shouldn't be a Democrat or Republican issue. It can be bipartisan, and it should be bipartisan. And I really like this Trillion Trees idea because trees act like the lungs, for the Earth. They capture CO2 and they turn it into oxygen. So it's something that we can't do a trillion trees in the U.S. alone, but with us, along with working with other countries through incentives with businesses, through incentives maybe through federal aid to other countries, tax credits for people who plant trees, we can get to that trillion tree mark by, I think they're looking at 2050. That's something that I'm definitely on board with because you have certain countries that are now look at in South America. They're going after the trees in the Amazon. We don't want to keep. In addition to us planting trees, we got to stop them from cutting them down. So that's something we also have to focus on on the federal level. But there are tons and tons of different programs. Incentivizing people for developing cleaner ways to produce energy. There is a congressman I was talking to last week was saying that they're developing. There's a project that's being developed by the federal government that can suck carbon out of the air. It's amazing what technology can do. I've seen it in Albany through local bills that have been going through there, but now I'm going to see it and support them on the federal level.
Thank you, Assemblyman. My name is Harrison Bench, and I'm the Deputy Director of Students for Climate Action. You just touched upon renewable energy, and so the next question we have for you is dealing with offshore wind energy, because New York has ambitious goals to power 6 million homes with 9,000 megawatts of offshore wind power by the year 2035, but we need action on the federal level as well. The Federal Bureau of Land Management was supposed to come out in 2019 with a map of new offshore wind area in the United States, but that map has still not been released. So as a congressional representative, what would you do to help advance offshore wind projects?
Well, yeah, I know Governor Cuomo in New York does have a very ambitious goal. There's a project off the coast of Montauk, I believe right now, which would power 900,000 homes or on the South Fork or on the eastern end of Long Island. It's a great project. I think it's 35 miles off of Montauk. It wouldn't really affect anybody. I think even the commercial fishermen are on board with it, which is a big industry out there. On the federal level, we do need them to move a little quicker on these projects that have local support. There is also, I know Congressman King, Congressman Swazi, and I even think Congressman Zeldin all supported. There was a offshore wind tax credit. It's something that, again, bipartisan. Congressman King, Congressman Swazi, Republican, Democrat, that had bipartisan support that allowed these wind farms to go forward. A lot of these technologies, you need that extra incentive. You need that extra tax credit. It's not it might not cost us a full dollar helping this business to do it, but they're willing to do it if it only costs them 65 cents. We can offer them a 35% tax credit, then it makes sense to them. So any way we can get businesses, individuals to do the project on their own, incentivize them to do it on their own with sort of a tax credit, I definitely would be supportive of that. And that's pretty much what the federal government can do.
Well, speaking of which, there is a solar investment tax credit, or ITC, that has been out there and has been helping to make the solar industry booming in the United States. Since the tax credit was established in 2006, there's been a 10,000% increase in solar industry in the United States, in creating tens of thousands of jobs and investing billions of dollars in the solar industry in the United States. We know, despite this success, that the solar ITC is at risk of being expiring in 2021. Would you support extension of that program or continuation of that tax credit? And what else would you do to help support the solar industry here in Long Island and in the United States writ large?
Well, I absolutely support the solar industry. It's actually a pretty big industry in the district. There are quite a few businesses that produce solar panels. They develop them. So you're right. They have created jobs. They've created jobs right here on Long Island. I would also, on a personal level, I know quite a few people around here that use that tax credit when things were going well for them. They said, we have some extra cash. There's this tax credit. Let's install solar. And it worked. Everybody put it in. They were happy. They got their tax credit back. They were now producing clean energy with solar. And then a good friend of mine and his wife they did it last year. They were both laid off during COVID. And so, both of them, husband and wife, they say, all right, how are we going to make our bills? I got to pay my mortgage. We got to buy food. We have to pay gas. You know what they didn't have to worry about? Electric. Because when they had the money, they were smart. They reinvested in their home. They got their solar panels up, and now when they were hurting, when they needed help, they didn't have to worry about how they were going to pay their electric bill because the solar panels are doing that for them. So not just on an economic level from the jobs that they've created, the solar panel, the tax credit has created in my district, but what it's done for people that I know. I have actual stories of how it's benefited people. So I would 100% support the extension of the tax credit. Also, just again, supporting innovation, whatever we can do for businesses. I sat on the energy committee in Albany, and one time we went and visited a solar farm in Rensselaer County. And they were showing us on this solar farm that they have these new solar panels that they were developing that can still collect 80% or 60, 70 or 80% of capacity on a rainy day. It was amazing what they could do. There's no sun out, but they're still collecting solar energy. So it's some sort of, not just for the tax credit for putting on solar panels, but also supporting businesses through some sort of program, maybe investment or tax credits for them to develop these new energies, because technology is going to keep getting better every day, as I saw, and it'll just keep getting better. So any way we can support that will also be great.
New York has one of the most aggressive plans in the nation when it comes to cutting greenhouse gas emissions. But in order to meet those standards on a national level, those reductions on a national level, we need strong federal leadership. The expansion of offshore drilling in the Arctic, the expansion of hydrofracking, and reversing regulations on coal and the coal industry is moving our country in the wrong direction. So I want to ask, how will you fight back against fossil fuels and those industries that are emitting a lot of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases?
Well, I know there was a plan, there was talk about having offshore drilling off of the coast of Long Island at one point, or certain areas in the East Coast, and I've already come out against that. I don't even think there's an existence of oil, but we don't need it. We don't want it, so I wouldn't support it. And one thing about coal, which was interesting, I was actually doing a little research. I didn't realize, but the use of coal is actually dropping over the last 15 years in the U.S. So coal-produced power is, I think, cut in almost half from what it was in 2015. And you've seen the growth of solar. You've seen the growth of, what else? Gas, which is, gas is a fossil fuel, but it also produces CO2 emissions at half of what carbon and what coal and oil do. So, you're not going to you can't produce all our energy on renewables alone. Having gas, natural gas, is better than working with coal and oil. So having more projects that do that, that's better. If we can get rid of the old coal power, if we can get rid of the old gasoline-powered plants, and come up with new natural gas-powered plants, that will help. It's still a fossil fuel, but it will cut down on carbon emissions. But like we just talked about, the offshore tax credit for wind farms, the solar production tax credit, continuing those tax credits, incentivizing people to invest in renewable energies is the main way. As the federal government, we can pass those tax credits. We can make sure they're there so people say, you know what, I have the choice between natural gas or I have the choice between solar. I'm going to go with solar because I have that tax credit. You know what? It's tugging on my heartstring a little. If I can do something better for the environment at the same cost, I'm going to do it. So we can do that on the federal level. So pushing to keep those tax credits, pushing to keep the innovation so the technology can get better, so the technology gets cheaper. That's also something we can focus on. And again, that on the federal level, you can do it on a much bigger level than you can in New York State.
Thank you.
So shifting gears a little bit, one of the biggest challenges that we're going to be facing here on Long Island with climate change is risk of drought and saltwater intrusion into our drinking water supply. Clean drinking water in particular, is a huge public health concern and something that we are facing now, not just from saltwater intrusion, also from groundwater contamination, replacing lead pipes, dealing with sort of the contamination of our past. As a member of Congress, what would you do to help ensure that there is clean drinking water supply available here in Long Island, and how would we help remedy the contamination of the past?
Well, as a member of the State Assembly, I've actually voted for several bills that banned certain products that were contaminating the aquifer. I mean, it was I remember Adrian Esposito was up there last year. There was a big bill. I can't remember the name of what it was, but it was something she had been fighting for a long time, and we finally passed it last year. And I was happy to support that legislation. But moving to Congress, you're 100% right. There is a drinking water problem on Long Island. The aquifer is being contaminated, not just from man-made contaminants, but also nitrogen. There was a report last year that Suffolk's aquifer was having huge levels of nitrogen, was contaminating the drinking water. This is coming from mostly, the report said, cesspools, old septic systems. Most of Suffolk County and the areas of Nassau County, Suffolk County, most of Suffolk County is not sewered. And the areas of Suffolk County and Nassau County that are sewered have old sewage treatment plants. So, and there hasn't been an infrastructure bill out of Washington in decades. We need Washington to pass a full infrastructure bill. Not just roads, not just bridges, not just energy infrastructure, but specifically also dealing with clean water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure. Because until we can get the homes that are connected to all the old septic systems, the old cesspools, get them connected to sewer systems, so that nitrogen isn't going into the aquifer, it's not going out into the Great South Bay. Until we get the money from the federal government, the state's not going to do it. The state has said, Governor Cuomo has said he's come out with a sewer plan, more money for clean water, but it works so much better. And as we've seen in the past, the states, the counties, the towns, they'll do these projects when they have matching federal dollars. They'll say, well, if I'm going to get $3 from the federal government for every $1 I spend, you know what? Now it makes sense. It's not just for the environment. Also, we get these, we get the sewage treatment plants, we get the sewers working. It's also going to be good for the economy. It's one of the few things that environmentalists and businesses can agree on. Sewers are good for Long Island. They're good for the environment.
We have a few more minutes if you'd like to say anything else to your future potential constituents.
Well, as I said in the beginning, I grew up on Long Island. I'm third generation here. Grew up 5 minutes, not even from the Great South Bay. Being pro-environment is not a Republican or Democratic issue. It's as a Long Island Republican, I don't think you can have a Long Island Republican that's not pro-environment. It should be a bipartisan issue, being pro-environment. And I've done a very good job in Albany of supporting bills that I've thought have helped the environment on Long Island. I'm going to continue to do that when I get to Washington, D.C. as the next congressman. Congressman King was very good, had a very good voting record for the environment. I plan on working with Congressman Swazi and Congressman Zeldin to continue the good work that they've done for the environment on Long Island. And it's not a Republican-Democrat issue. I have a good voting record in the past, and I'll continue to have one in the future.